You find a place that actually works. You can afford the rent. Your references are good. You are ready to move. Then comes one question: are you claiming universal credit? You say yes. And 10 minutes later the message comes back: sorry, it's just been taken. Maybe it had. Or maybe it was the answer to that one question. Because if a landlord or an agent turned you away simply because you are on benefits, in England, in 2026, that is now against the law. There are still fair affordability checks and one narrow temporary exception I will explain. But as a blanket policy, that door is closed. For years, 3 little letters did a lot of damage. No DSS. You saw it in adverts, on the letting sites, in agents' windows. No DSS, no housing benefit, no universal credit, working tenants only. And a lot of people just accepted it. They assumed a landlord could pick whoever they liked, for whatever reason, and that being on benefits simply put you at the back of the queue or out of it altogether. That assumption is out of date. The idea that a landlord can post a blanket no benefits rule and that there is nothing you can do about it is exactly the myth this video is going to take apart. So here is the actual position. In England, under the Renters' Rights Act 2025, it is now unlawful for a landlord or a letting agent acting for them to refuse you simply because you are, or might be, a benefits claimant. That came into force on the 1st of May 2026. It means they cannot stop you inquiring about a property, viewing it, or applying for it on the basis that you are on benefits. And they cannot use a quieter workaround either, some policy or practice designed to make benefit claimants less likely to get the tenancy. The blanket ban is out, whether it is printed on the advert or just applied behind the scenes. And it is not only the landlord who is caught. Letting agents are covered too. Benefits here is broad. It covers universal credit, housing benefit, and a range of others. And it is not just people already claiming, it protects people who would be entitled once they got the tenancy. Now, this did not come from nowhere. Even before this, blanket no DSS policies were being challenged in the courts as indirect discrimination. Because women and disabled people are more likely to rely on housing benefit, so a no benefits rule hits them hardest. But those were county court cases, persuasive, not binding across the whole country. What is different now is that Parliament has written it down in black and white. It is no longer just something judges had said, it is the law. A quick word on scope, so you know if this is you. These rules mainly cover England's private rented sector, the assured and regulated tenancies that most renters have. Different rules can apply to lodgers, to supported housing, and to some other arrangements. So this is about the mainstream private rental. And there is that one narrow exception I promised, and it is temporary. If a landlord is tied to an older insurance policy, one taken out before these rules began, that required them to exclude benefit claimants, they may have a defence for now. But the moment that policy is renewed, that defence falls away. For almost everyone house hunting today, it simply will not apply. Now, one really important thing, because I want this to be straight with you. This does not mean that everyone on universal credit is automatically entitled to rent any property they like. A landlord can still check whether you can genuinely afford the rent. They can look at your income, ask for references, run the usual checks, ask for a deposit or a guarantor. The law specifically says that taking your income into account to see whether you can afford the place is still allowed. What they cannot do is skip all of that and refuse you just because you are on benefits. So the test is simple. Is this a real, fair affordability check applied to everyone? Or is it a no benefits door closed before you have even been looked at? The first is lawful. The second is not. Let me show you how this usually looks. This is an illustrative example, not a specific case. Someone sees a flat online. The rent is well within what they can cover, partly from work, partly through universal credit. They message the agent, friendly reply, come and view it. Then they mention the universal credit, and the tone changes. The viewing quietly gets cancelled, or the flat is suddenly no longer available, even though it is still online the next day. Or they are told very politely that the landlord only wants working professionals. On the old way of thinking, that person just shrugs and keeps looking. On the law, as it stands now, that is exactly the kind of treatment the Renters' Rights Act was written to stop. And there is something they can do about it. So if this happens to you, here is how to protect yourself. First, keep the evidence. Screenshot the advert, especially if it says no DSS or no benefits. Save the messages, the emails, the texts. And this part matters. Capture who actually imposed the restriction. The agent or the landlord, their name and details, and what was said. The listings website that only hosts the advert usually is not the one responsible. It is the landlord or the agent behind the decision that the law is aimed at. If a property was suddenly gone the moment you mentioned benefits, but still advertised the next day, capture that too. Second, you can raise it in writing with the agent or landlord and point out that refusing on benefits grounds is now unlawful. Third, and this is the real route, report it to your local council. It is the council, the local housing authority, that enforces this. They can investigate and they can fine a landlord or agent who breaks this rule up to £7,000. One honest note on that: the penalty is paid to the council, not to you. This is about stopping the practice, not a payout. But reporting it genuinely matters, because it is how these blanket bans actually get shut down. And get advice. Shelter and Citizens Advice both handle exactly this, and they are free. So, can a landlord still say no DSS in England? No, not as a blanket rule. Refusing you simply because you are on benefits is against the law, and has been since May 2026. A landlord can still check that you can afford the place. What they cannot do is shut the door on you just for claiming. If you have ever been turned away because you are on benefits, tell me in the comments what happened. It might help someone else recognize the moment something isn't right. This has been Housing Crisis Guide UK.